For years now, we've known that tiny plastic particles are pretty much everywhere. In our oceans, in the soil, even in the air. It's a bit unsettling, right? And it's led scientists to ask a much more personal and, frankly, a much more worrying question. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into a pioneering study that finally went looking for plastic in a place it had never been found before, inside the human body.
So this has been the big nagging question for scientists. I mean, if plastic pollution is all around us all the time, is it also getting inside of us? And if it is, how in the world could you even prove it?
Well, that's exactly what this is all about. We're breaking down a landmark paper from 2022, published in the journal Environment International. A team of researchers there developed the very first method to actually hunt for these microscopic particles in our blood.
To really get why this is such a huge deal, you have to remember the context. We are literally living in a plastic world. Science has already confirmed these particles are in our food, our water, and the air we breathe. So finding out if it's inside of us isn't just a curiosity. It's become a critical health question.
So, how did they do it? Let's get right into the investigation. The research team got 22 healthy, anonymous volunteers and set out on a mission to search for microscopic bits of plastic inside their blood samples.
Now you might be wondering, why look in the blood specifically? Well, the scientists call it the blood compartment. A great way to think about it is like the body's superhighway. It's about 6 to 7% of our body weight, and it's responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients everywhere. So the theory was, if plastic particles managed to get inside us, our blood would be the transportation system carrying them all over, maybe even to our organs.
The process itself had to be incredibly precise because the last thing you want is contamination. So first, they collected the blood using a stainless steel needle and tubes made entirely of glass. Absolutely no plastic. Second, they filtered the blood to catch any particles down to 700 nanometers. Just for some perspective, a single human hair is about 70,000 nanometers thick, so we're talking about incredibly tiny stuff. And finally, they used a really sophisticated technique to identify the exact type of plastic and, this is the crucial part, measure its mass.
And this is just brilliant science. To be absolutely sure that they weren't just picking up random plastic bits from the lab environment, they ran dozens of what are called blank samples. That's basically just tests with ultra-pure water. This let them subtract any background noise and be confident that what they found in the blood was actually from the blood.
All right, so after all that meticulous prep work, the team analyzed the data. And what they discovered was nothing short of a groundbreaking first for human health research.
So here it is, the headline finding. They found plastic. To be specific, 17 out of the 22 volunteers, that's 77%, had a quantifiable, measurable amount of plastic particles just circulating in their bloodstream. For the very first time, we had direct, measurable proof.
Now this slide here shows you the raw data behind that number. Along the bottom, you can see each of the 22 donors. That vertical axis shows the concentration of plastic they found. See the different colored bars? Each one is a different type of plastic. And you can see the results were all over the place. Some people had one type, some had several, and a few, over on the right, had none that could be detected. This right here is the evidence that backs up that 77% figure. And this table breaks down exactly which types of plastic were the most common. PET, which you find in drink bottles and even clothing, showed up in half of the donors. Polystyrene, used in a ton of food packaging, was in 36%. And polyethylene, the stuff plastic bags are made of, was found in 23%. These aren't some obscure industrial plastics. This is the plastic that's part of our everyday lives. The study also gave us a really powerful new way to measure this whole problem. For decades, we've measured air pollution by the mass of harmful particles in a certain volume of air. Well, this study took that same logic and applied it to our bodies, measuring the mass of plastic in a certain volume of blood. This is so important because it creates a standard way to measure it, which is going to be vital for all the health studies that come next.
So, plastic is in our blood. But what does that actually mean for our health? Well, this discovery doesn't give us all the answers, but what it does is open a whole new chapter of really urgent questions.
And the scientists themselves are very, very clear about this. They state it right there in the paper, a health risk assessment just isn't possible yet. They've proven that we're being exposed, but we simply don't have the data to know what the hazard is. That's the next frontier. So this leaves us with this whole host of really critical, unanswered questions. How are these particles even getting in? Can they build up in our organs? And of course, the big one, what, if any, are the long-term health impacts? This study really provides the foundation to start tackling every single one of these questions. The researchers think the exposure is probably coming from a bunch of different places. It could be from inhaling particles in the air or ingesting them through our food and water. They even point to personal care products, like polyethylene in some toothpastes or PET in lip gloss, as possible sources.
So this is where the science is right now. This incredible, pioneering work has shifted the whole conversation from if plastic is in our blood to how much is there. We now have the first ever measurement of plastic particle pollution inside of us. But the essential work for science has really just begun, and it all centers on one profound question. We know it's there, but what is it doing there?